Old Dirty was a professional thief though, you know. He was a booster, you know.
Dirty was always tremendously friendly. Jailhouse basically told him if he ever went to jail, he would have saved.
Old Dirty Bastard was the wildest member of the Wu-Tang Clan, earning a reputation as a true menace. The media turned him into a punchline, while the government hunted him down like he was public enemy #1.
To me, it's like everybody's scared of the government, you know what I'm saying? Because they killed Tupac and they killed Biggie Smalls. I don't care what y'all say, that's my seeing. Who cares?
Old Dirty Bastard wasn't just a rapper from Brooklyn, he was a trendsetter. He lived recklessly on the streets, but also risked his life, crashing cars to save children.
You saved a little girl's life the other day, didn't you?
Yes.
Dirty lifted the car off of her like Superman.
He broke the law, but he'd bend over backward for his kids.
Well, there was one guy who kind of stood out. When he interrupted that award show, he said, Wu-Tang is for the kids.
He got high, but never let his art lose its spark. He stole, he gave, he laughed, he listened, and somewhere along the way, he became a legend.
It was everything, yo.
Yeah.
He gave me my soul. I never met anything like that. Ever in my life.
But legends, especially black ones, make those in power uneasy. Many fans couldn't understand why the FBI kept a 90-page report on him, filled with allegations of murder and drug deals.
Smoking a lot of drugs. So he got it, the last time he was here, he got as high as he could ever.
Police shootouts and secret surveillance, everything they thought could finally take him down. But the more they watched, the more confused they became. OB didn't follow the rules. He wasn't a gangster or a politician. He was something they couldn't categorize as either a threat or a celebrity without completely mislabeling him. So how did the FBI label him?
I was in prison, all I heard was we are killing OD.
Let's start from the beginning. OB was a contradiction, a walking paradox. He tossed the rulebook out the window, then set the ashes on fire. 1 minute, he was a platinum-selling artist.
First one, so, won platinum. Right. So it's all good,
The next moment, he was rolling up to the welfare office in a limousine, MTV cameras following him, proudly pocketing food stamps like it was just another line in a rhyme only he could make sense of. The media called it fraud. He called it survival. Maybe it was both. Born in Brooklyn in 1968, OB, born Russell Tyrone Jones, grew up in a city already bursting with tension and poverty. But in that urban chaos, he found rhythm. Alongside his cousins Robert Diggs, Gary Grace Arza, and Jeeza, he built a world of martial arts mystique and rugged beats.
Our brother, Old Dirty Bastard.
Old Dirty Bastard.
He was the vessel for the motivation. You know what I mean? He was the make RZA see right what it is.
But before the beats and bars, there were empty refrigerators. There were days when hunger spoke louder than any melody.
Out here, we knew we was broken, but everybody around us was just as broke.
Russell, like so many others, learned early that if you didn't hustle, you didn't eat. Petty theft wasn't a career, it was survival. He'd snatch food from corner stores, not out of malice, but out of necessity. Bread stuffed under his shirt, canned goods slipped into coat pockets. The rules were simple. Take what you need, keep moving, don't get caught. But he did get caught, and when he did, the system didn't see a hungry child. It saw a statistic, another name to shuffle through courtrooms and case files. Early, run-ins with the law were just whispers of what was to come. Juvenile detentions, probation hearings, slaps on the wrist that eventually turned into shackles. Russell was under watch before he even understood what that meant, labeled and logged before he could grasp the weight of it. Yet through the chaos, there was always music. The three cousins spent hours crafting rhymes, mimicking the flows of MCs they admired, turning scraps of noise into poetry.
When we was at our lowest moment and not believing in this, Dirty would come in the room and it'd take him 2.3 seconds to get the energy back up to be like, we the best.
While some kids played basketball, they battled with lyrics. Where others dreamed of escaping through fame, they built blueprints for a revolution, not just to be heard, but to be felt. Before Wu-Tang was a brand, it was a brotherhood, and ODB was its wild, untamable heart. When the Wu-Tang Clan emerged from Staten Island in the early 90s, the world was about to be flipped on its head. Hip-hop had seen gritty, had seen raw, but it had never seen anything like Old Dirty Bastard. In a group already filled with lyrical scientists and kung fu mystics, OB was the glitch in the matrix. He didn't just rap, he collapsed into verses, bounced off bars, screamed, warbled, laughed mid-line like he was possessed by the ghost of hip-hop's past. He was chaos you couldn't look away from.
We got Big Poop right there. We got the Jizza right there. We got the Raekwon the Chef right there. We got Method Man right there. We got Inspector Deck. We got Baby U-God, Golden Arms. You know what I'm saying? In the back we got Master Killer, and we got the RZA, but he not in effect right now.
They hit the streets with Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. And just like that, the door was kicked open. But even amid the avalanche of talent, ODB stood out like a siren. He had a gift for mayhem. In the studio, he was unpredictable. Russo would cue up a beat, and no one knew what was coming next. He might start crooning like a drunk Motown reject or mumble something that sounded like he was battling his own mind. But then, boom. A line would drop that was pure gold. Raw, crooked, and real. One engineer reportedly said, "You couldn't produce OB. You just had to catch him in the moment and pray the mic was on." That kind of lightning couldn't be bottled. It could only be survived. OB sang off-key like he meant every note, slurred his rhymes as if his tongue were arguing with his thoughts. But it worked. It worked because it was honest. No filter, no polish, just dirt. Unapologetic. People heard that album and either got it or didn't, but those who got it felt it in their bones. It wasn't rap. It was performance art. It was a diary written in crayon on a bathroom wall. However, ODB wasn't just unpredictable, he was uncontainable. Stories of him swerved between hilarious and haunting, like the time he stopped his BMW in the middle of the highway just to smoke a cigarette and play video games. Of course, he had a PlayStation hooked up in the back seat. Another time he crashed his car into a mailbox on his way to an interview, then waltzed in laughing, hijacked the mic, and turned the chaos into comedy. That was ODB. Wreckage and charisma tangled in the same breath. And yet people loved him, not because he was polished, not despite the madness, but because of it. He was real. There was no filter between his brain and the world, no pretense, just raw energy, like lightning, in a bottle with the lid unscrewed.
People love to be around Dirty. Dirty loves to have a good time. Dirty loves to be under the spotlight.
But that lightning burned everything it touched. He fathered 13 children, 13 little dirties, as some would call them, with 6 different women. He missed court dates, missed child support, missed chances.
I love my children just being there, you know, as a family, you know what I mean? You know, things just got to be, you know, dealt with, you know what I'm saying? You know, that I got to deal with, and that's what got to be dealt with, and we'll deal with it. The creator makes sure everything is right.
He had money, sometimes millions, but still rocked $50 sneakers with a wad of $500 in his pocket. He once claimed he kept it real by not paying taxes, by staying close to the streets.
Mostly towards ODB. I know Praz and the Fugees do things for the community, but what is going to be your thing for the community?
And maybe he believed that. Maybe he couldn't escape them. That's the dark side. But the light cut through just as strong. There were moments when the mask slipped and the protector emerged. Like that night in 1998 when a car crashed over a girl in Brooklyn. OB didn't hesitate. He ran out, gathered people, and helped lift the overturned Mustang, saving a 4-year-old trapped underneath.
Incredible strength sometimes in a moment of panic.
Yes.
And you lifted the car off the girl.
By yourself?
You know, he got some people there.
Some people there, you know, and it just happened, you know.
Hours later, he hit the Grammys and interrupted Sean Coven's speech to rant about Wu-Tang being robbed of an award. Wu-Tang is for the children.
Y'all said, but when it comes to the children, Wu-Tang is for the children. We teach the children.
And somehow, nobody could argue. He'd show up to interviews half sober, or sometimes not at all. He'd talk about alternative music, the Beatles, Barry Manilow. He wasn't playing a character, he was the character. Even the industry didn't know what to do with him. He'd take over MTV interviews and end up giving love advice to teens. He'd spill a drink on someone's new shoes, then pour the rest of it on himself just to say, "Now we're even." He looked out for his people, bringing his neighborhood to shows. If the club said no guests, OB would walk through the front door and say, "They're with me." He was the guy who'd fight for you, even if he couldn't fight his own demons. He'd mentor younger rappers on the phone for hours, hyping them up, trying to keep them from falling through the same cracks. And yet, he kept falling. Fame gave him a mic, a mansion, and a mirror, and OB didn't like what he saw. The more famous he got, the more erratic he became. There was no plan, no blueprint, just dirt, wild and uncut, living in a world that wanted to box him in. And every time they tried, he busted right out. That was his genius. That was his madness. He once paced the halls of a hotel at 3 a.m., hearing voices, asking to crash in a friend's room because the shadows wouldn't stop watching. Then they'd smoke, drink, talk.
Let these people change you, baby. Do what you gotta do, man. If they don't want to accept your material, man.
But the madness didn't define him. It revealed him. By the time Old Dirty Bastard stormed the Grammy stage in 1998, dressed in that now iconic burgundy suit, the FBI wasn't just aware of him. They were watching closely, not as distant observers, but as predators circling their target. They were already deep into building a case, one that would eventually span 90 pages. The FBI
a lot of guns, shoots in the air, and then the crowd went silent.
Here's a refined and compelling rewrite of your passage, preserving the raw emotion and complexity while giving it sharper structure and flow. There's a report buried in the file, a wild shootout where ODB allegedly opened fire on police. Not some vague shots were fired scenario. No, according to the feds, he pulled the
Anybody got a quarter?
Thank you.
Hot as damn for. Beautiful things. How much money you got here? All right, we good to go.
To the public, it was either performance art or the unraveling of a man gone mad. But to the FBI, it was simple: fraud. Another file opened, another box checked. Just one more reason to keep the heat on him. For ODB, it was just Tuesday, and then it got darker. His 1998 arrest in Virginia Beach.
Like, yo, you gotta get me out of here, God. Like, you gotta use your power.
Just another contradiction. A man who seemed untouchable on stage, caught trying to armor up off it. Beneath the bravado, there was always a hum of paranoia, nervous energy that suggested he felt the walls closing in. Was he really being hunted? Or was he chasing shadows of his own making? Dirty never did anything quietly. Even his courtroom appearances felt like performance pieces, chaotic and surreal. But nothing came close to what went down in October 1999. The trial was in full swing. Charges were stacking, the pressure mounting, and then he vanished. In the middle of it all, he simply walked out of a Brooklyn courtroom. No disguise, no decoy, no getaway car, just raw nerve and the audacity to disappear in plain sight.
Not crazy at all, okay? Everybody always saying that Dirty is crazy. Dirty is not crazy at all. Dirty just foresee a lot that a lot of people.
Days turned into weeks, and ODB was officially a wanted man, again. But this time, he didn't slink into the shadows. He reappeared in the brightest spotlight possible, the Grammy Awards. There he was, standing alongside his Wu-Tang brothers. Technically a fugitive, wrapped in a designer suit that felt more like a punchline than a disguise. He looked wild-eyed but composed, like a man who either believed he was untouchable or had already accepted that he had nothing left to lose. The crowd didn't recoil. They applauded. Some laughed, others just stared, trying to process the surreal sight. A man dodging the law, now grinning under studio lights, beamed into homes across America. Then, just as suddenly, he vanished again. That moment became legend. Who else but Old Dirty Bastard could ghost law enforcement and reappear live on national TV?
Live, man. You know, I mean, we all do our things and everything. You know what I mean? Y'all know me for being raw. So I gotta keep it. In the world is mine, okay? So I can't count how many kids I got. All the children in the universe is mine, everywhere.
Smashing the Grammys, the poet, who bled into every verse. That contradiction was part of his genius, and in the end, his death felt like the closing line of a life lived with nothing held back. Old Dirty Bastard didn't just make music, he poured his soul into it. And that kind of truth doesn't die, it becomes legend.
If you're gonna be real, be real. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Don't play no games. This ain't no game.
He told me to sit there and watch him, eye to eye.